Casey, and you can tell by my mug and by my sweater that I really wish it was fall already. Okay, also I love this sweater. I bought this on a whim this weekend at Old Navy for, you know, just no real reason, and I want to make it my whole personality. This is my favorite thing that I own right now, and I want to wear it all the time in every single color. Anyways, here today we're gonna do my September wrap up. I had a very lackluster August, if you saw my August wrap up, and I ended up just going really hard on a lot of the books that I was kind of reading and that I was planning on reading for September, and I ended up finishing, I think it ended up being 17 books or some shit. And so without further ado, let's get into it and get into the superlatives. My 2-star for the month was The Snowman by Jo Nesbø. My 3 stars for the month were The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa and Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Alcalf. My 4 stars for the month were Wendy's Button Box by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar, Monstrillo by Gerardo Samano Cordova, You Must Not Miss by Katrina Leno, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, Wild Spaces by S.L. Coney, We Play Ourselves by Jen Silverman, New Sons, original speculative fiction by people of color, edited by Nisi Shaw, Sharkheart by Emily Habeck, Walk Among Us, 3 short novellas for Vampire the Masquerade, and The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. My 5 stars for the month were This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone, Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen, The Marrow of Thieves by Sherry Demeline, and 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bazterrica. Okay, so moving on to superlatives for the month. I am actually, in fact, going to add a new one that I'm just going to go ahead and throw in here first. And one that I want to do every month is talk about my favorite cover for the month. So for best cover, I'm going to give it to Sharkheart by Emily Habeck. I'm not even going to talk about what the book is about, but the cover is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It should be somewhere on the screen around in here right now, and I think it's just incredible. It looks like a piece of embroidery art, and I think it's amazing. Okay, talking about my worst read of the month, and that has to go to The Snowman. This is a thriller set in, I believe, somewhere around Oslo, which I believe is in Norway. And this is following Inspector Harry Hole as he is trying to uncover who the Snowman Killer is. This was turned into a movie that I'm pretty sure did really terribly. And I know a lot of people who love thrillers and mystery thrillers really love this book, but I really didn't like it. I thought it was just oh god, how do I say any of this in a nice way? I thought this was really stereotypical. The fact that our main character, who's some middle-aged white dude, is apparently irresistible to his ex-wife and possibly to this new woman who is on the force with him, who is working with him on this case. It was really frustrating. And at some point in time, this turned from kind of fun, sort of enjoyable, along for the ride, like, okay, this wasn't as bad as I expected, to just everything I hate in these kinds of books. I don't particularly love detective novels, and I don't really like thrillers, and it got really out there. And as far as the twists and turns were concerned, I found them to be lackluster at best, and that's probably because I didn't really care about any of the characters or what was happening, and I just felt like it was, I don't even want to say it was all over the place. I think it was all in one place. It was just a place I didn't want to be. Okay, moving on to the most disappointing of the month, and this unfortunately goes to The Cat Who Saved Books. This is a just little portal fantasy kind of literary fiction about a young boy who's like 17 or 18 in high school in Japan, and his grandfather who is raising him passes away, and he is trying to take care of closing up his grandfather's bookshop, but also getting ready to move in with his aunt and move where he lives, and then he meets a cat who wants to save books and takes him along for the journey. The reason this gets the most disappointing is because while it wasn't necessarily disappointing to me, I didn't expect much of it, and it didn't exceed those expectations or lack of them, but it also didn't, you know, it didn't really disappoint me. I didn't have a lot of disappointing books this month. I had 2 3 stars, and neither of which I had super high hopes for. So I went for the one that I thought might be more of a 4-star book for me, and ended up being a 3-star book. I thought this was darling and cute, and I thought it was a good time and a quick, easy read, but I really could have done with either a little bit more from the story or maybe just a little bit more from the characters, but overall this was really fine. Moving on to my most meh of the month, this is going to go to Queen of the Tiles. This was my other 3-star book for the month. This is a young adult mystery following a young woman, Najwa, I believe, in Kuala Lumpur, I also believe. And she is really into competitive Scrabble, and her best friend in the whole wide world died unexpectedly at a Scrabble tournament the year prior, and she is coming back to this tournament not only to reconnect with friends and the thing that she loves most in the world, but also to potentially solve the mystery of what happened to her best friend a year prior. This is young adult and mystery, so this just didn't quite jive with me. I'm trying to dip my toes into more mystery thriller type stuff this year, and it's going about as well as I expected, which is very meh for the most part. This is an excellent book. It is good. I think it's engaging. I think it's very interesting, and I think, you know, learning more about competitive Scrabble and the way that people really engage with it was really fascinating. But overall, this just wasn't a book for me. I'm a little too old, number one, and mystery thrillers don't really do it for me. So this, while I thought it was a good time and something that I think a lot of people will love, just wasn't a book for me. And so it just gets the most meh because it just landed about where I thought it would. On to my most surprising for the month, and this is going to go to Walk Among Us. I picked this up for a couple reasons. None of my reasons were that I thought I was going to really love this and going to have a great time with it and get to the end and wish that there was more of it. But that's what ended up happening. I grabbed this because I like Erika Ishii as a personality and a creator, and finding out that she did the narration for one of the novellas was really exciting. This also checked off another thing on the Libro FM audiobook challenge for the year of listening to a book narrated by a celebrity, and I walked away from this one so happy. I had a great time. The novellas in here are written by Genevieve Gornichek, Caitlin Starling, and Cassandra Khaw, I believe. And all three of those are authors who have written something that I really enjoyed or I outright loved. And all of the novellas in here were so good. It got a 4-star for me because technically two of the stories were 5 stars and one was a 4-star. And so in the essence of fairness, I gave it 4 on like Goodreads and Storygraph, but I really thought this was a good time and this was fun, especially like novellas based off of a game. Again, I'm so bad at synopses. These are all novellas kind of into the world of, I believe it is a TTRPG called Vampire the Masquerade or something like that. And these are just stories kind of set within that universe, and they were really fun and they were engaging, and some of them were, you know, kind of gory, and I love that, and, you know, twisty and turny, and just a fun time, and I really enjoyed it, and I had such a good time with it, and I'm so glad I picked this up on a whim. On to my best for the month, and I have to do a quick shout out to my favorite book of all time. This is How You Lose Time War. This is incredible. This is a sapphic love story between two agents on opposite sides of the Time War who write letters to each other and fall in love, and I'm pretty sure that this had a moment a few years ago when it was published, and I've read this once a year since I initially read it. I reread it this past month, and it's still absolutely my favorite book of all time, and I love it so much, and you should absolutely read it. Okay, on to books that I read for the first time this month. We're going to start with the best nonfiction I read, which is the only nonfiction I read, and that is Ace. This is a book talking all about asexuality and kind of breaking down compulsive sexuality in society, and just sort of like what this can mean about it. The subtitle on it is absolutely correct. It breaks down like what desire and sex and all these kinds of things kind of interplay, and breaking them down from, you know, the asexual perspective, while also trying to educate people on what asexuality and aromanticism can absolutely look like. This was really, really good. I thought it was great. It was fun. Well, I don't know if fun is the best word for it, but this was a good time. I learned a lot. I had not really, you know, just to hang my ass out here a little bit, I had never heard of compulsive sexuality before, and I was absolutely fascinated to hear about it, and I was like, oh, yes, that is absolutely a thing. And it just taught me a lot, and I thought it was really, really interesting and really engaging, and just super informative and also really intersectional in the way it talked about a lot of things, and I absolutely loved it. On to my best fiction for the month, and that's gonna go to 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bazterrica. And you might be asking yourself, even though I know you're probably not, Casey, why would you give a 5-star collection, or 5 stars, why would you give a short story collection 5 stars? Because you already talked about a series of novellas that you gave 4 stars because one of them was technically a 4-star. Weren't there ones in here that weren't as good as the others? And the answer is yes, but the answer is also I read this all over the course of 2 days, and it was like a fever dream going from one story to the next, and as far as I can remember, I didn't dislike a single one in here. And all of them were incredibly readable, incredibly engaging, sometimes horrifying, and sometimes almost funny. And I just really loved it, and I really love Bazterrica's writing, and I think she's absolutely incredible, and I just want to read everything she comes out with. And so I'm excited to see more of her work get published in English so that I can read more of it. And this was everything, and this was actually, I think, the first thing I read this month, and it really set me off on a good pace, so there we go. Okay, that's it. That's the September wrap up. I hope you had a good time today. I know I did. And please feel free to do algorithm things if you want, like comment, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. And if you leave a comment, tell me what your favorite book you read this month was, or your least favorite book. I love to hear the extremes of opinion. They're super fun. People get really, really passionate about it. So yeah, okay. See you next week. Bye.